Hey, what's up everyone? I'm the Burning Baron, but you can just call me the Baron. And Mario Kart 7 is the next stop on the all Mario Kart track ranking videos. Mario Kart 7 was one of the first games that I started following before its release. Because I started following games and systems before their release back in high school when I finally learned how to properly use the internet. And I was on Mario Wiki all the time, just following the information from Mario Kart 7 because that was one of my most hyped games for the early 3DS timeline. And, well, I was really, and I still love it, I was really excited, but now that I've spent roughly like more than 10 years with the game, I began to realize that some of the Nitro tracks were just not as strong as I really thought. Some of them still hold up pretty well today, but most of them still don't. In fact, I think I've gone on record to say that Mario Kart 7 might have one of the weakest cups in the entire franchise for me personally. And on the topic of that cup, let's get started, because the cup in question is Mushroom Cup. And we start with Toad Circuit. Now, thanks to this track being in Mario Kart 8's Booster Course Pass, you've probably already heard me talk about this track quite a few times. And you'd probably also remember that this one ranked at the dead bottom of the Booster Course Pass tier list that I made. I want to make something very clear. I don't hate Toad Circuit. It ranked low in the Booster Course Pass because it was a Wave 1 opener track that didn't need to be in the Booster Course Pass. Toad Circuit felt like it was just, that was the biggest why of the Booster Course Pass. Like, even if you wanted a Mushroom Cup track, there were 3 others, and only one of them was one I can actually recommend. Like, I would have put Guy Bazaar in there. But we got Toad Circuit, and it just looked terrible because Wave 1 Booster Course Pass visuals were garbage. But we're not talking exclusively about the Booster Course Pass. We're talking about Toad Circuit in general. And in general, it's not a terrible track at all. It does its job perfectly fine. I love the giant toad balloons that fly around. And from the 3DS, the visuals actually looked really nice. I actually think I prefer the visuals on the 3DS as opposed to Tour in 8 Deluxe. Now, granted, Tour itself does not have great visuals, and carrying those visuals over to the 8 Deluxe versions didn't do it any favors, which, but kind of, for me, by default, makes the 3DS version the definitive version of Toad Circuit. I think one thing that I really liked is that this was one of the first times where the opener track of a game belonged to somebody and it wasn't Luigi. The other being Mario Circuit 1, really, because we had N64 Luigi. Oh wait, no, Peach Circuit was another one. Excuse me. But Luigi has had an opener in every single game. Actually, now that I really think about it, Luigi had the openers in almost every home console game, with the only one him not having a stake in was Super Mario Kart. But the handhelds, being Mario Kart DS, Mario Kart 7, and Mario Kart Super Circuit, they belonged to other people or didn't belong to anybody, with Peach Circuit and GBA, Figure 8 and DS, and now Toad Circuit on 3DS. So, having Toad open up the game was kind of interesting, and I kind of like it. And of course, like I was saying, the visual aspect of the giant Toad balloons was very nice, and while the visuals of the 8 Deluxe version suck, they did add a few extra details like the MKTV vans littered around, so it does feel a little bit more like it was like an event, but the reality is it wasn't, and the other reality is that this is still an opener track. Now, where do I want to put this? Now, obviously, I'm not going to say that this opener track hits B, no shot. But I want to say that if it were to compete with anything, it would compete with Peach Circuit. And I think what we're gonna do, or what I'm gonna do, is I'm actually gonna rank it C+. Ooh, no, you know what? I don't know if I wanted to say it competes with Peach Circuit this badly. Top of C+ does not feel right. I think I'm gonna put it just below the Vanilla Lakes. C+, it's above Coconut Mall. Yeah, shit on me for that one. Toad Circuit's not a bad track. It does its job as an opener, and I don't mind that. I really do like it. But obviously, for an opener, it doesn't stand out when compared to some others. Peach Circuit's reappearance in Tour was so much better when compared to Toad Circuit's reappearance in Tour. And that's probably because Toad Circuit was an opener track to even Mario Kart Tour. Early Mario Kart Tour tracks were generally taken straight from Mario Kart 7 with very little done to them to change up anything, visuals or gameplay or otherwise. So when comparing Peach Circuit, which was a later addition to Tour, to Toad Circuit, Peach Circuit is just phenomenally more impressive. And when I look at every other track here, they all just resonate with me more than Toad Circuit ever will. So yeah, low tier C+. We're gonna stick with that. Onward to Daisy Hills. Daisy Hills, despite being a Daisy themed track, probably is not one of my favorites out of all of my girls' track choices. Daisy Hills isn't a bad track by any means. It's a quaint little town with a nice little lake and all the hot air balloons. It's got a mountainous range with a lot of little goats hanging around. I get a very, I don't know why, maybe it's the windmill as well, but like I get a quaint Dutch feel from this track, which should resonate with me because I am part Dutch. Oh, excuse me. But I think the reason why it isn't is because I'm a city boy at heart, not a country boy. And Daisy Hills is a more countryside style track as opposed to the kind I like. The music also doesn't do it for me at all. Really don't care for the music in the slightest. Like, if I were ranking this on music, that would be very bottom tier. And truth be told, when Toad Circuit is okay, unfortunately, like I've said, Mushroom Cup and Mario Kart 7, it's just my least favorite cup in the entire franchise. At best, the courses are okay. But at worst, we'll get to that. But Daisy Circuit just doesn't really hit any notes with me. I don't care for it. I don't really like seeing it in Mario Kart Tour either. Like, it's not a bad track from a gameplay standpoint, but the theme and the music are just not my style in the slightest, and I've never really cared to play on this track. It's one of the reasons why I never play Mario Kart 7's Mushroom Cup when I was playing Mario Kart 7. Like, I used to play this game so much, like every single day throughout the entirety of 2011, I probably booted this game up and I played it every day at school. And truth be told, never wanted to play the Mushroom Cup. None of its tracks resonated with me enough that I ever wanted to play them. So, yeah, it's been 7 games, and the last time I ever had a D rank was in Super. But, congrats. We have our first D rank track since Super Mario Kart. I'd even rank this below Ghost Valley 1 and Bowser Castle 2, simply because I just don't care about Daisy Hills at all. Nothing more to be said, it's just one of my least favorites. And another milestone among this ranking, Cheep Cheep Lagoon. I hate this track. This is by and far my least favorite track in the entire series. In Mario Kart 7, I did not care to play this track at all. It was so boring, even for what it was, opening up the underwater idea of driving. That was cool. It did nothing else. Nothing. And I think it only gets worse from there, because in Mario Kart Tour, this is hands down the worst track in the game. Mario Kart Tour's gameplay style relies on keeping a combo going and earning as many points as you can through as many actions as you can perform. What breaks a combo so bad is floating down slowly underwater. This isn't the only track to have this problem, but this is the only track where the problem is so notable and so problematic that it borderline makes it virtually unplayable for me. Slowly floating down to the ground is an easy way to completely break whatever small combo you had going in from the beginning of the race to the first jump of the track. And it gets only worse from there when you go an entire lap with some decent combos and then have to worry about breaking it all over again on second lap because you have to jump right back into the water. Well, I got a lot of coughing going on. Sorry about that. The case in point is that Cheep Cheep Lagoon is not built for Tour. They decided to put it in Tour, and nothing else about this track has ever given me a reason to like it. The music is okay at best, catchy a little bit, but I didn't even like it when I first started playing. In fact, that was another reason why I hated the track so much, is that back when I first started playing it, I actually hated the music even more. It grew on me a little bit, perhaps Force being played it in Tour kind of helped, but in general, if I ever saw this track in Ranked, I was pissed off. And thankfully, in this time of reruns in Mario Kart Tour, we're not seeing Cheep Cheep Lagoon appear in Ranked ever because it was a base game track. So thankfully I don't have to deal with it that much. If anything, I think I only have to deal with this track maybe once or twice across a full year of tours. But I hate this track. I just don't like it. Nothing about this track has ever resonated with me. And I will say that the only thing that this track ever had good going for it was that they updated the visuals a little bit in Tour to make it slightly more entertaining. But that's it. From a gameplay standpoint, this track sucks in Tour. I didn't care for it in Mario Kart 7 on all fronts, so I'm slamming this one down at the bottom of E, and it's staying there. I don't throw out how much I dislike things very often. In fact, as you can see by this ranking overall, there are only 6 tracks that even ranked below C. And that says a lot, because I don't really hate a lot of Mario Kart tracks in general. The E ranking for Koopa Beach 1 and 2 is simply because they have nothing to like or even dislike about them. Even in Koopa Beach 2's reappearances, it's just nothing much. But Cheep Cheep Lagoon is probably the only time, well, one of the only times where I can genuinely say I just hate the track. It sucks, for me personally. Of course, apologies to anybody who likes these tracks, but this is my ranking, and I gotta slam something at the bottom, and Cheep Cheep Lagoon is that track. Alright, let's finish off mediocrity with Shy Guy Bazaar, probably the best Mushroom Cup course in Mario Kart 7. Among the Nitros, of course. If we want to talk about the retros, there is no competition. But Shy Guy Bazaar is like a desert bazaar. Looks like it takes on a very Arabic theme. I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciation. I butcher pronunciation on a lot of things, but I do think it's a very nice design and a very nice track. It's got a cool night theme. I think the only thing holding this one back is the music. Mario Kart 7's Mushroom Cup music was pretty bad, all things considered. The circuit theme might have been the only thing in the Mushroom Cup that I didn't really hate listening to. The music of Shy Guy Bazaar didn't resonate with me at all, but I really did enjoy the track as a whole. The large gliding jump with all the Shy Guys on flying carpets was pretty fun. The bazaar itself was pretty fun. There were moving vases around that acted as hazards. Not really like huge hazards. They more or less just acted like barrels or crates if you hit them. And then there was a small diverting path before the rooftop jumping zone. Oh my goodness, sorry. And overall, yeah, that's really all there is to it. I wouldn't say it's visually all that phenomenal either. And again, much like most other tour tracks that were early on, which is to say, a lot of Mario Kart 7 courses, it just didn't really do much on the visual scale. It should be noted that among Mario Kart 7 tracks, the entirety of Mushroom Cup, along with Mario Circuit and Rock Mountain, were all introduced very early. Neo Bowser City as well, and that was in the second tour. But otherwise, all of those Mario Kart 7 tracks that reappeared in tour, a lot of them were very early, and as a result, they didn't get any sort of visual attention drawn to them. No changes, no gameplay changes, nothing. And that really does hinder them in tour. But I think why Shy Guy Bazaar isn't hindered that much is because its variants are still pretty fun. I know I didn't talk about the variants of the other three, but that's probably because even with the variants, nothing was going to save Daisy Hills or Cheep Cheep Lagoon from their placements. And Toad Circuit's pretty much locked on C+ for being average at best. Shy Guy Bazaar, on the other hand, unfortunately is still also just a C+ track for me. And truth be told, it's probably in the same spot. I'd rank it just above Toad Circuit. I'm not going to say I like it better than Vanilla Lake 1 or 2, or anything above that. The Shy Guy Bazaar is, this is how you could tell Mario Kart 7's Mushroom Cup was not great. In fact, C+ might even be a little too much for this. But I think, you know what, yeah. I think C+ is even being a little too generous. The thing is, as much as people are going to hate hearing this, I actually do still genuinely like Toad Circuit more than Coconut Mall. But I don't know if I want to slam Coconut Mall into C-. No, I'll keep them in C+ for now. Toad Circuit's not that bad, and Shy Guy Bazaar is not that bad. I think C+ is fine. Alright, let's move on to Woohoo Loop, the opener to Flower Cup, and the very first track in the franchise to have a section-based gameplay as opposed to laps. This is something you might hear me say a lot, especially come the next game, but crossover tracks like this just didn't really resonate with me all that much. Woohoo Loop and MakaWoohoo were kind of okay for being based on the MakaWoohoo. Was that what it's called? No, Woohoo Island. What am I saying? Why did I say MakaWoohoo? What kind of name was that? Anyway, Woohoo Loop definitely is I think the better of the two. I like the daytime theme a little bit more. I like the visual brightness that brings. And it does take you across a lot of the more interesting parts of Woohoo Island. Now that's not to say that MakaWoohoo has absolutely no good landmarks to it. We'll cover that one later. But I like the daytime vibe of Woohoo Loop a little bit more. Do I necessarily like the crossover idea? Not really. And on top of that, I don't really care for the 3-section track either. I would much prefer 3 laps, but there are times where I'm willing to say that that's not that big of a problem. Because realistically, when you do 3 sections as opposed to 3 laps, you don't really get a lot of time to appreciate certain sections of the track because you only get to race through them once. 3 laps lets you explore with the track a little bit more, and I think that's why I like it more. As I prefer 3 laps to 3 sections. The music is a really spicy take on the Wii Sports theme, and I like that. It's pretty good. Will I say that this is a bad track? Absolutely not, but Mario Kart 7's Nitro lineup isn't exactly strong in my eyes. It's pretty much the first half is pretty mediocre at best, and the latter half gets pretty good. Like, don't get me wrong, there are going to be some high-ranking 3DS tracks, but starting early on, very little. That being said, Woohoo Loop doesn't deserve anything lower than C+, honestly. Honestly, even maybe even B-, really. Actually, no, I think C+. I want to rank it above Bowser Castle 1. Bowser Castle 1 doesn't really age well in terms of its reappearances. And while it's a shame that Woohoo Loop didn't appear in Mario Kart Tour or anything beyond that, I feel like we are going to see it eventually because with Mario Kart 8 having a bunch of cross-franchise tracks as well, there's no way they're going to leave those behind at any point. Like, at least I hope not. But I think midway into C+ is fair. Ranking it above Bowser Castle 1, Desert Hills, Cheep Cheep Beach, I'd say that's pretty decent for me. But Mario Circuit on GameCube and Wii and even Peach Beach, honestly, kind of hit better for me. Alright, the Mario Circuit of 7, let's go with that. Mario Circuits are as you can tell, pretty standard. Most of them seem to be hitting C+ at best, with a few ranking above, but, well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not including the variants of Mario Circuit for SNES. 4 out of the 7 so far are just in C+, which means that the highest ranking Mario Circuit thus far is probably Mario Raceway, which is, for me, an A rank track. Now obviously, again, we're kind of ignoring the SNES tracks because they're multiple variants, and even then, one of them is getting unfair treatment. Excuse me. Anyway, 3DS Mario Circuit. Well, I'm looking at the little icon here, and it's kind of reminding me that even this one wasn't that much. It's definitely better than GBA Mario Circuit, hands down. When you look at GBA Mario Circuit, it doesn't have much going for it either. But this is definitely not ranking above GCN Mario Circuit. I do like the cherry blossom trees and the fact that you actually race inside of Peach's Castle for the first time in the franchise. Like, Mario Circuits have had Peach's Castle located in them since the GameCube. But the 3DS is the first time where you actually raced inside of it, which was pretty impressive, all things considered. But I don't know, like, I'm gonna be 100% honest, the Pill Hill shapes in the background are just giving me some very bad New Super Mario Bros. Flashbacks, and that's not a very good sign. Because the 3DS was also around the era when New Super Mario Bros. Was just the default template for every single game Nintendo made. Every Mario game just had to feel like it was just a New Super Mario Bros. Game with a different gameplay style slapped onto it. Don't make me talk about Sticker Star again. The offender of offenders. Alright, well, yeah, I'm not going to say that 3DS Mario Circuit is that great. It's definitely better than GBA, but definitely not as good as GameCube. So, C+. Mario Kart 7 is going to be loading the C+ up to the point where I might need to cut this tier up again. Yeah, right behind the Vanilla Lakes. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. So, C... Oh, wait a minute. That's the wrong thing I'm supposed to be doing. C+, yellow, add a row below, and... I don't have a color for this one. Okay, you know what? Let's switch things up. This is gonna be the C tier, the new C tier. We're gonna make the C+ tier orange. We're gonna make the D tier red. And we're gonna make the E tier gray because you can't get any more boring than gray. And we're gonna move pretty much, I think, everything from Vanilla Lake downward is just gonna be a C tier. Like, honestly, I just don't think any of these tracks resonate with me at all, at best. Oh my goodness, this is so finicky. So yeah, I think it's good that I do this over time. This tier list is massive, bruh. But you can just tell that a lot of the tracks just... it's hard to have an opinion on every single track in the franchise. That's a lot of tracks to care about. At least we can say that my least favorites are heavily outnumbered by my favorites. But I think Mario Circuit's going to land itself as a middle-of-the-ground C tier track. C+ is for the ones that stand out just a little bit more. C- are for the below average, and C is just right in the middle of the road. Alright, let's finally talk about something half decent about Mario Kart 7, and that is Music Park. I think Music Park harkens back to an age when Mario Kart tracks really did try to step into more unique themes. I see a lot of Cheeseland or Ribbon Road in Music Park, but I think the only reason why I don't slap it with those tracks in the same tier is simply because it's a little bit on the short side. But, all things considered, Music Park is one of the best tracks in Mario Kart 7. Well, not one of the best, but this is going to be our highest ranking thus far. Music Park is all instrument and music based, hence the name. You drive along a bunch of different instruments. You see a whole bunch of instruments in the background. It's a very, very nice looking track. I love the starry sky. It's almost kind of easy to forget that this track is just floating in space. You know, Rainbow Road's ordeal. It's stealing Rainbow Road's thunder without stealing Rainbow Road's thunder. If anything, Rainbow Road's just like, yeah, no, chill here. Now that I'm thinking about it, wouldn't it be cool if you could see Music Park from a Rainbow Road? That would be cool. But yeah, I think one little quirk to this track that was super cool and super interesting was the fact that when you drove on the piano and the xylophones, they would actually make noise with the music, and that was so cool. Instead of mushroom trampolines, you can jump on actual tambourines or actual drums, which was really cool. There were bouncing music notes in the long gliding section, which were basically just more interesting thwomps. And there were some pretty interesting shortcut opportunities here, what with the drum at the very end, cutting through the grass, and the ramp just after the Piranha Plant section. Overall, Music Park is definitely one of the better tracks of Mario Kart 7, and being probably the strongest Flower Cup track in the game says a lot. So, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Music Park up in one of the B tiers. I'm gonna say bottom of B+. It's definitely one of the stronger tracks. Its reappearance in Mario Kart 8 was very welcome. I don't know how exactly it ranked above a Special Cup track in terms of its difficulty. Somehow this ended up in the Leaf Cup as opposed to the, the Banana Cup, where I think it probably would have thrived a little bit more. But all things considered, Mario Kart 8's retro lineup was also pretty solid, and Music Park really did a lot to help that, in my opinion. So I think bottom of B+ is pretty fair for me. Alright, Rock Mountain. Ignoring the incredibly boring-ass English name, Alpine Pass was definitely a better name for this track. I would have preferred it. Rock Mountain is also a really, really boring to look at track. I mentioned this one also in the Booster Course Pass ranking, and that is its biggest weakness is that across all of its appearances, they did nothing with this track. And you could say that about a lot of early game Mario Kart Tour tracks, but this one just doesn't even have anything going for it in its OG appearance. Toad Circuit at least had the balloons. Daisy Circuit at least had hot air balloons. This is just a World 6 New Super Mario Bros. Looking track. And that's boring. The Pill Hill backgrounds, the boring rock wall mountain style. Like, what about this track had anything going for it? It had massive gliding sections, which was cool. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at least added an anti-gravity section, but for what? You know, what did this track even do? Like, honestly, if not for the fact that this had 3 appearances, I'd say that this was probably the most forgettable track in Mario Kart 7. And not because it was easy to forget, but because I just want to forget it. I'm making this sound like it's worse, but it's not that bad. It's kind of still better than Daisy Hills and Cheep Cheep Lagoon. But I don't even know if I want to rank this too high. Like, the music is really good. I do like the rock music that it has. Fitting for Rock Mountain. And the music was definitely at its peak in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. But racing on this track? Kind of boring. Especially considering you got 2 giant gliding sections. I guess I gotta give it credit. Thanks to my Mario Kart Online with friends and viewers, Big Kahuna did teach me that you can cut through the grass on the side of the giant jumps. And that's kind of a lot of fun if you have a lot of mushrooms to use that for. But I don't really know if I want to say that's strong enough to carry it. Let's see. You know what? C plus, or C is the tier to beat, but no, absolutely not. I'm putting this in D. I didn't actually think I would come to that conclusion, but top of D, because I don't care for this track at all. Like, the C tier, I might not care about some of these tracks, but I still look at them and I'm like, yeah, I can find reasons to like them. Rock Rock Mountain I don't care about, and I don't really care to try to care about it. So I think D is just kind of where I want to leave it. Alright, Piranha Plant Slide. Next to Music Park, this is where things start actually getting good. Like, actually good. I don't know if we'll see a C- tier track from here on. Piranha Plant Slide is entirely, or at least heavily based around the OG Super Mario Bros. The trees, the clouds, the bushes, they kind of have that Super Mario Bros. Feel. The underground section is all navy blue in the original, which references the dark blue palettes of the underground levels. Lots of piranha plants. The Goombas are even blue, just like in the original Super Mario Bros. This track is a very, very interesting track, because despite its name, it's more akin to a sewer than a slide. And that's kind of why I like it. It's an interesting theme. And Mario Kart 8 also brought this track to very strong peak heights. Starting with the OG, Piranha Plant Slide, it was definitely supposed to be an homage to Super Mario Bros., as well as mixing in a strong Piranha Plant theme. There are a lot of Piranha Plants. There's flowing water that branches across a Piranha Plant with a little jump in the middle. It all sections off into a little tunnel leading into a big underwater pipe, which I think was the coolest part of this whole track. Another Piranha Plant is under there. I guess Piranha Plants are just naturally able to survive underwater. I guess, you know, they never really did say whether or not that was a thing, but here we are, Piranha Plants can survive underwater. And then you got a big gliding section that leads to a little swervy section with Goombas and cardboard cutouts, with a bush blocking off a few off-road shortcuts, which could be very beneficial. One of those shortcuts was pretty much removed going forward in its future appearances, but when it comes to talking about this track in Mario Kart 8, oh boy was this track ever great. The underground visuals were really good, and I think what they did with the underwater pipe section was phenomenally better than the OG. It's a giant open sewer network, and it looks so cool. I actually took the model of this track from Mario Kart 8 and I looked at it in a 3D model viewer, and the inside of that pipe looks so cool. I really just want to look at it again. And like, again, that's also talking about the fact that the Mario Kart 8 base visuals did this track so many favors. On top of not even changing too much about it. The entire underwater pipe section was also made into an anti-gravity area, which made it even better. And again, the visuals just really carried it. It kept a lot of its original looks, updating them very, very fittingly, and brought in a bunch of additions that just made it better. I think what I'm going to do, honestly, I was gonna say B or B+, but honestly, Mario Kart 8 alone carries this track pretty high. I think I want to put it in middle of A, just under Sherbet Land. I still have a lot of fun with Sherbet Land, and in Mario Kart Wii and N64, it's just peak. But I definitely want to say that Piranha Plant Slide would rank above Koopa Cape and most everything below it. Mostly because I think Koopa Cape's just kind of wearing down, but thanks to its 4 appearances, 7 being one of them. But the 3DS Piranha Plant Slide in Mario Kart 8 was pretty peak, and even in Mario Kart Tour, this track wasn't bad. If anything, I had some pretty good scores in this one. So I think this is a pretty solid A rank track, all things considered. Moving on to Wario Shipyard. I'd wager that this was the most underwater track in the entire game. Like, honestly, I will draw these comparisons when I talk about Mario Kart 8, but Wario Shipyard is the very heavy underwater theme track of the new tracks. Most of it is underwater, and overall, another really unique theme. Wario Shipyard seems to take a lot of inspiration from classic Wario Land titles. And while I can't really draw a lot of those comparisons, thanks to the fact that I've only played Wario Land 4, I know that there are the signs of Bull Wario all over the place, and that was a transformation in some of the Wario Land games. I just don't know which ones. I do very much like this track. This is another very strong one for me, but its only problem is that it doesn't have a lot of notable appearances to go off of. It reappeared in Mario Kart Tour, I think debuting in the Wario vs. Waluigi Tour, and I very much enjoy playing it. The variants were fun, but I think why one disappointing thing for me is that this didn't appear in the Booster Course Pass. I would have taken Wario Shipyard over Rock Mountain any day of the week. And I think it's kind of upsetting that this track didn't get in for that. Like, I would have really liked that. And I think it would have ranked a lot higher if it did. Granted, it's still ranking high, but it can't. I can't say it's going to rank higher than Piranha Plant Slide. Piranha Plant Slide is just too good an 8. But a lot of the underwater aspects, you would be surprised that it doesn't actually hinder too much in Mario Kart Tour because the gap or the height from jumps isn't that big. And a lot of the times, there are points where even though you're underwater, you're not floating very slowly, and there isn't much time between that and another part where you're just getting a lot of points. I wager that the part with the warp pipe just before the ship entrance, that's when combos will probably likely break on the normal version of Wario Shipyard and Tour. But every other variant seems to be pretty okay with mixing the underwater physics with Mario Kart Tour's point system. Of course, in Mario Kart 7 itself, this was definitely one of the tracks I would rather be playing. It was one of the reasons why Star Cup is probably my most played Nitro course, or Nitro Cup in the entire game. Wario Shipyard is a winner of a track, belongs to our good man Wario, the Garlic Man. It was overall a very interesting track. It takes place along a bunch of shipwrecked ships, which I guess does sell a bit of a pirate theme that Wario did have back in the day. Keep in mind, his biggest rival was a pirate in the form of Captain Syrup, who I don't really know too much about thanks to my lack of playing of Wario Land games, but case in point, it does fit some of Wario's old pirate theming, and having that throwback was kind of respectable when you think about it, especially for a 2011 game. So I think what I want to do, of course, I gotta put this in the... I lost it. I think I'm gonna also want to put this... I really do like this track. I don't know if I want to put it in A, but I don't think it's that... No, I don't think it's that strong. Not yet. I think I'm gonna put it just above Toad's Factory. I think I like DK Summit just a little bit more, but top of B+ seems fair. I almost wanted it to line up with the other Wario courses I have in B+, but DK Summit's just kind of a little bit better. Alright, Neo Bowser City. This one. Alright, let's start with the story. Back when I was following this game before it released, the moment I saw Neo Bowser City, I was locked in. This is my favorite track. This is my favorite Nitro track in Mario Kart 7. So, one thing I really was hoping for out of Mario Kart 7 was to see Toad's Turnpike, because I think that was the point where I hailed Toad's Turnpike as an uncontestable favorite track in the entire franchise. And while I have questioned that choice a lot over the course of the last few years, it's still up there, but back then this was peak. I wanted Toad's Turnpike, but sadly didn't get it. What I did get was a neon-based city owned by Bowser with the best music in the game and borderline best music in the franchise. Neo Bowser City's music has to be one of the highest selling points for me, for sounding so cool and remixing some of the best parts of several other tracks. It's got the circuit theme from this game. It's got the circuit theme from Mario Kart Wii mixed in there. And it's got Toad's Turnpike mixed in there. I don't know what choice they made that led to them thinking that we'll make a remix of two circuits and Toad's Turnpike of all things, but whoever made that choice, you have my infinite thanks for creating one of the best music pieces in Mario Kart. And the music is only half of it. The other half is how much I love the track layout. I would play this track so much in Mario Kart 7. There is no way any other track, if that game was keeping track of how many times I've played each course, Mario Kart or Neo Bowser City would be reigning high with no competition. I played Star Cup for this track alone, and I played this track on time trials so many times, perfecting it as much as I could with the arguably crappy kart combination I would put myself through. Pipe frame, red monster wheels, super glider, and I was taking those drifts like crazy. I was like hooked on this track. I love it. This is one of my favorite tracks ever. And I think you know what that means. We have our first Mario Kart 7 S rank. And this one currently is ranking at number 3. I am going to be looking at the top of S is going to be under the microscope by the end of this video because I'm at the point where I need to make an executive decision. But Neo Bowser City is at best, or even at worst, my third favorite track in the entire series. I love its music. I was hooked on it in Mario Kart 7, and that love did not drain after its 3 reappearances afterward. Or rather 2. It reappeared in Mario Kart 8 as DLC, where I absolutely loved that it came back. The music remained relatively the same, which I have to give it a large amount of credit for, because you don't fix what ain't broken, that's for certain. The visual update was phenomenal, giving the futuristic city theme even more detail. And even in Mario Kart Tour, where I would definitely say it's probably at its weakest, even then it's not that bad. It's still just as good. The glass tunnel looks great. They kept they kind of merged in a few details while keeping most of it from the original. I never tire of seeing Neo Bowser City. It's just a shame that I only ever get to see it twice across the repeated tours, and that's very close to the beginning of the tour's lifespan. Once in the Peach vs. Bowser tour, and again in the Bowser tour of, well, whenever the Bowser tour, the most recent Bowser tour was. But case in point, high S tier for me. I love this track even before I played it, so it's strong S. All right. Toning it down just a little bit, we're here to talk about MakaWoohoo. As I mentioned in Woohoo Loop, I would wager that MakaWoohoo is probably the weaker of the 2 MakaWoohoo or Woohoo Loop tracks. This one definitely does not skip out on the detail. Driving past the castle up on the mountain ridge and the massive gliding section down to the beach was pretty great. This was also the first track to have its starting point and finishing point in 2 separate areas, but it's the only one to have its starting and finishing area points in different sections, but still loop. Because this track does loop all the way around back to the beginning, it's just it doesn't finish there. It finishes at the beach where you loop around and, well, you'd only know this if you just sat around on the results screen, but your character will loop around the ending and go right back to the beginning. That makes it very interesting that if you ever wanted to, you could just go in time trial and completely skip the finish line and just do 3 laps. I've done that before. It's fun. It's interesting. It doesn't do you anything, but it's cool. I will admit, now it's hard for me to respectfully hold this against this track, but one of the reasons why I don't care too much about MakaWoohoo is the big glitch shortcut that this thing had. Now granted, they patched it out online, but it's still there in single player. But if you were to turn around and jump into the small pond just before the cave entrance, you'll actually get spawned at the top of the mountain just beside the castle, skipping a grand majority of this track. As a result, losing this track is hard. Now granted, you don't have to do the shortcut, but given that this track is something I just don't care about, I take that shortcut all the time just to get this track done and over with. I don't care for the Woohoo Loop tracks all that much. Again, I'll say it again, the crossover tracks are not exactly my cup of tea. They're not terrible by any means. The Woohoo tracks are pretty good, and the F-Zero tracks are decent in Mario Kart 8. But all things considered, I just don't care about the crossover theme. And that might also be because they chose a bunch of franchises that I just don't care about. Even if they, honestly, we're not counting tracks like DK Jungle or Yoshi's Island as crossover tracks, because Yoshi and DK are as much Mario characters as they are characters from their own little sub-franchises. They're all mixed in. DK Jungle is based on Donkey Kong Country, sure, and that's not a Mario game. And Yoshi's Island is more or less a sister franchise to Mario, because it still has a version of Mario in it. But they're still core Mario at the base of things. MakaWoohoo is not. Woohoo Island is a me thing. And while I love the Miis, don't get me wrong, I love those damn bastards, I just don't really care that they brought their island in with them as a track idea. So that being said, I think I want to place this in the C tier. I definitely don't care for it as much as Woohoo Loop. What did I do here? Top of C. I don't care about any of these three, honestly. Like, I'm not placing it above. Like, I think the only thing I could say is that it's better than Toad Circuit. It's better than all three of these. No, you know what? Just all four of these are just. I don't care. I don't care about any of these. No thoughts, no opinions whatsoever. Alright, speaking of DK Jungle, let's talk about DK Jungle. Heavily based on Donkey Kong Country Returns. You could see that with the Golden Temple and all the tikis hanging around, and the airships and the Screaming Pillars. Yeah, there's a lot of Donkey Kong Country Returns elements here. This is another one of those tracks where I think it's a little bit on the above average side of Mario Kart 7, but being based on a game that I have no intention of ever playing, it doesn't strike chords with me. So I rely a lot more on the track visuals, among other things. And the jungle-y style and all the references are pretty cool. I don't care for the music. The track itself is pretty interesting. It came back in Mario Kart 8 as a Banana Cup course for whatever reason, adding an anti-gravity section to the temple, which doesn't really do it anything, but it's still cool that it's even there. Gliding section at the end with a pond and a split branching pathway that leads to the finish. If you're good enough, you could take that close cut or close corner cutting inner path and shave a few seconds off your time. Otherwise, pretty standard track. It's a jungle. I wouldn't exactly say that this is a better ranking jungle than Dino Dino Jungle or DK Mountain, but I don't want to say that this is a C or a C minus tier track. Honestly, I don't really have too much to say about this track in general. I think I've pretty much wrapped it up. I don't really care for the source material of this one. I like it a little bit better than the Woohoo Island tracks, mainly because I'm still more of a Mario fan than over anything else. But Donkey Kong Country Returns is very far from an ideal game that I ever have intentions of playing. In fact, the fact that it was not even remastered, that's giving it too much credit. Lazily ported over to the Switch after already being on the 3DS. Donkey Kong Country Returns has a bit of a reputation going on for it right now between its ports. That being said, no, yeah, bottom of C+. I want to say I like it enough that I don't want to put it in the relatively I don't care tier, but it ain't ranking above Vanilla Lake 1 or 2. I can't believe I'm using those as a chokehold right now. You know what? There are a lot of tracks I didn't expect to be bars, but here we are. Alright, Rosalina's Ice World. I have very mixed, complicated feelings with this track. It belongs to Rosalina, and back in 2011, well, that was not a compliment to me. Now granted, I will say that 2011 might not have been the year that started my salt piles against Rosalina. I think that was roughly 2013, when Super Mario 3D World released. If anything, I actually think that Rosalina being in Mario Kart 7 was kind of nice, because I did like her in the Mario Kart Wii at the time of Mario Kart Wii. It's... okay, yeah, anything below 2013 is basically Rosalina, your okay time period. 2013 to roughly maybe 2020, maybe 2019, Rosalina, get off my screen. Everything above that, you're okay. So, yeah, I have history with Rosalina, and it's kind of sour history, but I'm chill now. Relatively chill. Anyway, let's talk about her track. Roselinas Ice World is a big galaxy reference. Somehow mixing in a snow theme with a galaxy theme, where you've got the Comet Observatory in the center right near the starting line and the Gateway Galaxy planet floating in the background. Otherwise, it's just a big old Iceland. Is it on Earth? Is it in space? I have absolutely no idea. The presence of the Comet Observatory kind of makes things a little hard to tell where this track actually is. It is in a starry night sky, though. We can make that for sure. This is it's a cool track, pun intended. The underwater section is pretty decent. Just watch out for the penguins. If you're good enough, you can boost right across and hit the ice on all 3 laps with your mushrooms. The icy cave is pretty cool. I like the icy walls. The icicles are a bit of a pain to deal with, but that one split section with the dash panels is pretty cool. It's not notable, but the dash panels being long were pretty interesting for their time at least. Of course, you got the shortcut that was added in the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version. In fact, they added this track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for some reason. Sniping a track off its perch. I think we all know which one that one is. But otherwise, I'd say this was a pretty basic and overall decent track. Not much else to say, but it's definitely ranking above DK Jungle. Not much farther above, though. Just above. Again, I kind of still like the simplicity and the visual design of Vanilla Lake, even though Rosalina's Ice World definitely does more with the visuals than Vanilla Lake ever will. I just have a little bit of a soft spot for the simplicity of these 2 tracks. So, it speaks a lot when I'm talking about a track in the dead center of the middle tier. But, whatever. Alright, 3DS Bowser's Castle. Another one of those badass Bowser's Castles. Now granted, this one feels a little more like Bowser's Basement as opposed to Bowser's Castle. It takes you through a very odd spot of his castle. You got his front hall, sure, but where does it go after that? What's the underwater section? His sewer line? Or it's like some kind of water lava mechanism spot. Was this where he generates his lava? I don't know. But wherever it is, it sure as hell ain't in the Bowser's Castle part of the castle. Again, Bowser's Basement. It goes out the back door. Like, the outer sections are really cool with the mountain, the twisty turns, and all the lava geysers. But it's the inside of the castle that really gets me sometimes. You glide right in, and this was one of the only tracks where it has a second finish line floating above the initial one, simply because you're going to be gliding over the finish line more often than not. On top of that, it's got that little spinny contraption inside just leading to the underwater section. Also, my understanding of water to lava logic is still a little finicky. And I'm not entirely sure how the water and the lava are capable of doing what they do in this track, but it's hilarious to look at, no doubt about it. 3DS Bowser's Castle is definitely a strong Bowser's Castle, but I wouldn't rank it above most of the home console versions. I think what I'm going to say is that this is definitely an A-rank track, and I'm going to say it's just below Piranha Plant Slide. I wager that this is definitely one of the best handheld Mario or Bowser's Castles, losing out just to Bowser Castle 4 from GBA, but it's definitely a step up from the DS Bowser Castle and just about every other GBA Bowser's Castle. Alright, let's finish this off with Rainbow Road. And this is where I have to do a lot of S-rank contending because, look, it's Rainbow Road. Rainbow Roads, in general, have a very special place in my heart for being incredibly colorful, often having some of the best music in their respective games, their challenging layouts, again, just how colorful and visually appealing they are. I think when I was listening to 3DS Rainbow Road music during work, it really started making me question, is putting Toad's Turnpike uncontestedly at the very top really a fair and just decision? Even if it is my general personal opinion, I'm calling it into question a lot right now. I think what I want to do is, for simplicity's sake, let's just go ahead and put this in the S rank because we all know it's ending up there. But let's start talking about whether or not I want to put it below Neo Bowser City. Now, okay, I think what we're gonna do more, let's just quickly talk about 3DS Rainbow Road first before I start shuffling the S rank around, because that's what I'm definitely gonna be doing here. Because I have to talk about 3 Rainbow Roads that I think deserve being higher than they are. 3DS Rainbow Road is a spectacle of a track for 3DS standards. It's one of the few times where I can 100% bypass the 3 segment idea. And while I still don't really like it, I just love the visual appeal of this track. The track itself is beautiful to look at. The music is definitely one of the best in the franchise, even contending with Neo Bowser City. You get to race on the moon. The rainbow design of the track is beautiful. There's so many wavy bits. It's just beautiful to look at. And then they came back in Mario Kart Tour and in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and both of those appearances are phenomenal as well. The only thing I hate is that it's only in one tour across all of the Mario Kart Tour's repeats. It's in the Space Tour, and it's gone now again. We already had it this year. Bro, why is this not in more tours? It's such a phenomenal track. I love getting the high scores on this track because it's big enough that you can net yourself a massive score from it. And of course it's in Mario Kart 8 where they just made it look even better. The only thing that sucks is that it was leaked beforehand thanks to the music leaks. Now granted, we all knew Mario Kart Wii's Rainbow Road was going to end up being in the Booster Course Pass, leaks or no leaks, but they just did it so beautifully in Mario Kart 8. The road design is phenomenal. They added the anti-gravity to the moon section, and while I feel like anti-gravity could have fit in more sections than just the moon, ain't no way I'm saying that this Rainbow Road is one of the weaker ones. In fact, I almost don't even know why I'm ranking. I don't even think it's supposed to be ranking above N64. Hold on, let me put it there. You didn't see that because I got the gameplay footage going on right now, but... Alright, look. I know, and I'm making it very clear that 3DS Rainbow Road is top of S. But let's start talking a little bit more about my choice with N64 Toad's Turnpike. Because without a doubt, that's still top of S. But when I look at it, I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to compare that to 3 other tracks. And it's more or less, I'm comparing it to the theme as opposed to the track itself. And I think I know what I want to do here. I think when it comes down to it, Neo Bowser City is definitively my 3rd favorite track, without a doubt. It ranks above N64 and 3DS Rainbow Road, and I want it to be very clear that I'm keeping it that way. However, when I look at GCN, N64, and 3DS Rainbow Road, I can't comfortably put them in their spots because I know they're better than that. We know they're better than that. I feel I can confidently say that a lot of people who, well, no, I'm not going to speak for any of you watching this, but for me personally, I can't put these 3 below Toad's Turnpike and feel good about it. Because the concept of Rainbow Road as a whole is just so much better than that. And I think that these 3 Rainbow Roads are the pinnacle of Rainbow Roads across the theme. So, here's what I'm gonna do. GameCube's Rainbow Road, N64 Rainbow Road, and 3DS Rainbow Road are all collectively going to be at the top. Toad's Turnpike doesn't necessarily rank 2nd compared to these 3 individually. If I wanted to say individually, Toad's Turnpike will still slightly outrank GameCube's Rainbow Road. If not, so it battles with it. Neo Bowser City is still definitively my 3rd favorite track overall, and my favorite 3DS track in general. 3DS Rainbow Road does not beat Neo Bowser City alone. And while this might not exactly be fair for ranking standards, yes, these 3 Rainbow Roads are effectively tag teaming Toad's Turnpike and Neo Bowser City. And I want to do that. Individually, yes, Toad's Turnpike beats these 3, and Neo Bowser City beats N64 Rainbow Road and 3DS Rainbow Road. But when these 3 put themselves together, when I look at them side by side, they have to be at the top. Rainbow Road is my favorite concept in Mario Kart. The music is consistently amazing, and the challenge they offer is unrivaled. And so I think, as a group, these 3 have to be on the top. They are 3 of my favorite Rainbow Roads in the franchise, and looking at them side by side, I think they earn this. I'm still going to put them in order of which I like the most. GameCube's Rainbow Road is still my favorite for its visual appearance and its challenge factor. N64 Rainbow Road is my second favorite for the nostalgic value of being my very first gaming memory in history, as well as the beautiful road design and the huge length. And 3DS Rainbow Road wins the bronze medal for having the best music of the 3 and a consistently amazing visual design that rivals the other 2. But yep, I think this is how we're going to end it off. S-Rank got a little bit of a shuffle. Toad's Turnpike is ranking second, but remember that it is still my favorite, and if we wanted to call these individually, it would still rank at the top, and Neo Bowser City would still be third. But in general, this is it for Mario Kart 7. The list is huge. I'm thinking, once I'm done ranking everything, look forward to a big old image of this entire tier list in a community post, but I hope you guys all enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think of Mario Kart 7's tracks. Let me know what you think of my opinion. Let me know what your opinions are. Let's strike some calm and friendly discussion. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.